Hello and welcome to Runners Only with Dom Harvey. That's me. On this episode, Rhys Darby.
Why should it happen to him? And look, I don't have the answers for that. I came from nothing. You know, I was brought up by mum who was on the benefit, and we lived in a two-bedroom flat. She had a room, I had a room. She didn't have a job, and I didn't have anything, and so I just had dreams. And so why can't a kid who didn't come from anything make it through his manifestation of what he believed he wanted out of life?
Rhys really is a New Zealander that needs no introduction, but I will jog your memory with a slither of his work. Since leaving the army and making one of the most bizarre career transitions ever and becoming a comedian, he pretty much became the unofficial third member of Flight of the Conchords along with Brett and Jermaine. And since having a crack at acting, he's been in films like Yes Men with Jim Carrey, Jumanji with Dwayne Johnson, Lovebirds, The Boat That Rocked, Hunt for the Wilder People, the list goes on and on. His most recent work at the time of recording this was the Netflix series Our Flag Means Death with his mate Taika Waititi. I honestly reckon I've interviewed Rhys maybe a dozen times, 15 times on the radio over the years, but this is the first time I've ever gone below the surface level with him, and I loved it. And I hope you do too. All right, let's get into it. Rhys Darby.
Hey, Runners Only, yeah, let's get it started. Hey, this is Runners Only with Dom Harvey. Fast paced, slow and steady, anywhere you coming. Just wanna connect for everyone who loves running. This is Runners Only, yeah, let's get it started. Hey, this is Runners Only with Dom Harvey. Fast paced, slow and steady, anywhere you coming. Just wanna connect for everyone who loves running. Hey, Runners Only with Dom Harvey.
Runners Only with Dom Harvey and Rhys Darby.
Yes.
In my house, in my podcast studio. Thank you very much for coming over, mate. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Lovely place. Very cozy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, a lot of people will be wondering, and I'm wondering as well, what are you doing on a running-themed podcast?
Well, I was thinking about that, and of course I do run. It's a good way to keep fit, so I think I do fit in.
Yeah, you do? You do run?
Yeah, I do run, yep. Always been a runner, hence the massive calf muscles. Look at those.
They are. Actually, oh shit, they are sizable. You are looking buff at the moment.
Oh, come on.
No, I mean it. Do you work out? You go to the gym?
I don't go to the gym, but I do work out. I have a Peloton, the bike system,
app thing, yeah.
big in America. I don't even know if you can get them here, but it's basically an exercise bike with live video feeds to hilarious people teaching you and classes and whatnot. I generally just use the other system, which is where you've just you're on a video road. And you can be at these different places on the globe, and I listen to my own music, and really it's just like escapism for 45 minutes or whatever I do on it. So that's fun, and that just keeps me in shape. And then I also run as well. I enjoy jogging, so I'll do that once or twice a week as well if I can. Yeah,
because you're in New Zealand a bit, but you're also in LA. So you just run. Do you run in the hills around LA, or just from home?
I do. I have a little home circuit around the neighbourhood. But also I do a track up into the hills, which is awesome. Yeah.
And there's another couple of links between you and running that I found. First of all, you were in a video recently with Prince Harry.
Oh, yes.
You share with him a fun fact about running, which is true.
Roger Toohey, I have him in my sights. And by my sights, I mean my eyesights. Oh, okay, he's fast. I'm going in, over, out.
Hi? Are you okay?
Yeah, I haven't run in a while.
Clearly.
You know, we actually invented jogging.
The Australians?
No, Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Oh, terribly sorry. I know you guys hate that. Kia ora.
I thought that was odd. I love that fact, and It doesn't make any sense, but...
No, because... So, did you, when you read the script, did you think it was a joke?
Well, no, because it's my script. I wrote it. Thank you, Dom. Come on, I write my own stuff, guys. But it was one of the few occasions that I did write that one. And yeah, I've always liked that little gem of a nugget, which is that, New Zealand invented jogging.
Yeah, which does seem weird because it's like a country claiming they invented walking.
Exactly. Yeah, Well, there was running and then there was walking, but no one knew the in the middle bit until they saw some Kiwi like struggling along. Hey, what do you call that pace? Jogging.
Yeah. So how did that come about? The
Harry one?
Yeah, the Prince Harry thing. Yeah.
My friend Leon, who works for Augusto here in New Zealand, they had the contract to create this piece of media with Harry. And so I got the call, obviously, good mate, hey, could you jump in on this bandwagon? Get to meet Harry, absolutely, And, of course, I looked into what it was all about, and it was sustainability and, which is very important. Tourists getting rated themselves rather than the place that they're touring, which I think is a great idea because the onus is on us to be good people. And that's the number one thing, I think, in the world that's going to take us through into a better future.
Yeah, for anyone that hasn't seen it, it's no doubt on YouTube where it'll live forever. But in a nutshell, Harry's out jogging and you're basically stalking him, hiding in the bush. And you hit him up with a fruit burst wrapper that he left on a beach in New Zealand many years earlier.
That's right.
It's a great concept. I love it.
Thank you. And then, so we kind of did that. And no idea how his movement has progressed from that point, but I was just happy to do a creative piece of art with the guy, and that promotes something that I think, is important.
And how does something like that work? Like how much time do you have with him? Does he just turn up and do the thing? And you know what I mean? Is there much downtime? Much chatting?
It was a special event for sure. We filmed at a non-disclosed location.
You can disclose it now.
No, I still can't. We had to sign a NDA.
Why? Is it where he exercises?
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a special place, and then, of course, the scripts had to go back and forth, and he had to be happy with what was going on. He was happy to work with me. That was one of the big draw cards. Another reason I think I got the job was because, he was a fan of my comedy, hopefully still is, now that he's part of it. And so that came into fruition. It took a while, actually. And then, we had to have a very small unit of people that were allowed on this particular property. And, it was one of those events that I say yes to because, it's once in a lifetime opportunity, perhaps.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. That. Yeah. Couple of gingers together doing that. Actually, are you blonde now? Have you dyed
blonde now? Yeah, my ginger days are done. Because I'm sick of that nickname. Luscious Locks is my new one. LL, cool guy.
Yeah. Have you heard the phrase "glow up"?
Yes, I have.
Everyone talks about you being like a glow up, like the epitome of a glow up.
That's weird.
Do you feel you are getting better looking as you age?
I don't understand the glow up. For me, it sounds like, and I think, Hollywood has come in and there's been some money spent. So that whether it's a tanning thing or a hair colouring, yada, 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 teeth whiten, etc. I haven't really done half of those things. But because of the show I was on, my hair was changed and I do have good hair. So that's a big thing. In terms of getting better looking as you get older, that's certainly a bit of a man thing for sure, and I'm happy with it. When I was younger, I was definitely very dorky looking, and I had a lot of confidence, but nowhere to take it to, and certainly no one to take it to with.
There's another link with you in running. We're recording this in July 2022, and this clip recently hit the internet. A Vanity Fair clip with you and Taika Waititi. You talk about your running style compared to Tom Cruise's.
Would you say you're a better runner than him, that man?
He's got a famous run. It's full on.
Choose your words carefully here, mate. He's an incredible runner.
Yeah. I'm not. Department. Yeah, you're right. I'm not as good as him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I think he has such a...
his movie running is...
style, doesn't it? What is it? Can you explain? It's
a sprint, isn't it? It's a manic sprint.
It's a manic sprint that seems to go on forever.
Faster than Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and I think that, and dare I say it, he's obviously a lovely man, but it's pretty much out there that he is, on the shorter side. And I think if you're short, if you've got little limbs, you're moving them faster, right?
Yes.
And you're a tall man. Myself, I'm lengthy in the limbs, and so I can't move them that quick. So when you're doing that thing, it's like that's what he would be doing. But for me, I see more of a gazelle in me, or even a large sort of ostrich,
right?
Stretching out. No arms required.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go all the way back. There's so much about you that we do know, like career-wise, but there's so much that we don't know. So first of all, like, where were you born and raised? How many siblings?
Oh, geez. Let me just check my files. So I was born in Auckland, Middlemore Hospital, one of 5, but the baby after a 9-year gap. So definitely a mistake. The other 4, were my brother is 9 years older than me, and then the other 3 beyond there, I got 3 sisters older than him, and there's like a 2-year or 1-year gap sort of between those guys. So then there's me. So very much when I arrived, it was just mum and dad split up at that point as well. So I was raised by my mother on her own. My brother was there for me for a little bit, but then he took off when he came of age. And so most of my childhood was just me and mum, and also my nana who lived down the road. So that's me in a nutshell, is very feminine
energy
upbringing and energy, which is really good, I think. But I did because I lacked the masculinity. I found myself obviously I ended up joining the army, and even before then, from the age of 12, I was wearing uniform in the Air Training Corps, then the Army Cadets, and I felt like structure and a bit of man discipline, if you will, was something that maybe I felt like I needed. Certainly Mum thought it would be good. She was worried about me being a teenager, falling on the wrong sides of the tracks like one of my other sisters slightly did. And
did she? In what way?
Oh, just, probably during the parents' divorce and all that kind of stuff.
Right, acting out a little.
Acting out, getting involved in a bit of, nefarious behaviour. Is that
what is it? I don't know. What does that word mean?
I don't know, it just came to me. I don't even know if I said it right.
Google that.
Stuff that's not like, you shouldn't be doing that. Or,
like drugs, alcohol, what?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Or did you, did you steal that? What did you? You better take that back to the shop. that kind of thing. Also, she was in a motorbike gang for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, trail bikers though. Nothing untoward. No.
Okay. Here I am thinking like Comancheros or Mongrel Mob. No.
They were a dirt bike gang.
All right.
So, but they had very loud motorbikes, like Honda 250s. And then my brother was part of it as well, and they used to kind of, it was kind of cool, really, looking back. 'Cause I remember I must have been about 5 or 6 watching this sort of happen. But yeah, so anyway, it turns out there was no way I was going to be the wrong side of the tracks guy. Very much a little geek, a little, not, I was going to say nerd, but no, I'm not smart enough for that. Definitely a weird kid. But yeah, so Pakuranga is where I spent most of my childhood, yeah.
You're how old now, and how old is your eldest sister, so the oldest in the family?
Yeah, so I'm 48 now,
right.
Dare I say it. And so my sister Shelley, I mean, I don't even know how old they are, but she had her 60th a few years ago. But they're all over 50 now. Yeah, she must be nearly 60. We're all getting too old. It's not nice to think about.
Are you quite a close family or not really?
We're a big family, and we get together, once a year. The ones that live here, I think they see each other more often, but we have a text group. But yeah, we're kind of spread out, but not as close as some families. But I think being too close can actually be a hindrance to everyone's happiness in some ways.
Yeah,
so I think we're pretty much a classic kind of New Zealand Pakeha family in that regard, that we know each other, but we know when to not bother with each other.
So if your siblings are going to LA, would they hit you up for accommodation, or
would they? Possibly,
is it that? Yeah,
but I don't think they would go. No, they can't afford to get over there. That's not happening.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit like my family. I don't know. This girl I'm seeing at the moment, her family is super, super tight, and the parents are still together, and I feel kind of envious in a way.
Yeah, it's not very common for the parents, especially from our generation, for the parents to still be together and things like that, which they should be proud of that.
Yeah, and you and I are about the same age, and so I suppose we were raised watching the same sort of TV shows, which were American sitcoms, where the families are still together. And what's your relationship like with your dad now? Do you have much to do with him, or
both passed away, unfortunately?
Oh, I'm sorry.
But yeah, my dad and I were not close. but we share, similar aspects, definitely. So when I was with him, I could see myself in him for sure. But sense of humor was something that I definitely got from him. But other than that, maybe some dancing skills and these amazing legs.
Okay, so why the army? First of all, were you funny? Were you funny at school? Like,
yes.
Yeah, you were.
I was the class clown for sure, and I disrupted class on occasion with ridiculous answers that I said only because they would get a laugh. And I was the weird kid, and I would do a lot of drawings, and sometimes I couldn't really take in what the teacher was going on about, so I would just draw, and other kids loved my little comic drawings, and they would just come to class and go, okay, get stuck into your drawing. We need this week's comic. So I wouldn't even be like listening to class. I'd be doing, what are you doing, Rhys? I'm doing my comic. I've got to get through this. I've got 3 boys lined up here. So I'd do that.
Probably prepared you for the book writing deadlines you had later in life.
Yeah, exactly. So, which I enjoyed, and that was kind of later on in high school.
I've had Mike King on the podcast, and we talked about his introduction to comedy, and he had almost a similar route to you in that he was in the Navy.
Right.
And I said, well, what if you were funny, why didn't you just gravitate straight towards comedy? And he said there was no sort of path then.
There was nothing then.
Was that the same sort of thing? You were a little younger
nothing
than...
around.
Yeah.
I mean, there were the comedians we knew of, were the ones from TV, obviously, all the icons, and they were sort of a different thing. There wasn't any comedy clubs. There wasn't a burgeoning scene for youngsters to go and grab a microphone and...
Well, that's my dog. He's scratching the carpet.
Something's scratching underneath me, folks. Okay, I know what it is, so I'm okay with it now. Stop it! Stop scratching!
You can't go to another man's house and tell his dog off.
Oh, shit, I'm still learning about dog behavior. Sorry. Keep going. Lovely. That feels nice.
It's just new carpet.
Yeah, so there wasn't... So I was obsessed with sketch comedy, British stuff in particular, obviously Monty Python and, anything Rowan Atkinson was involved in. So I wondered about how to get there and would that be something I could get into. But being young and being 17, because there was no door open for that, especially at that time, I went down the route of the military because that was my other passion. I liked everything about the military for some reason. And I think looking back, it's because maybe I'm in those days there was no ADHD kind of diagnosis type thing or anything like that. But I'm thinking to myself, I like structure and I like, since then have been looking. I have not got myself diagnosed about anything because I'm confident with who I am and how I can operate. But I like lists of things and I like order very much so and structure. And there's nothing more structurally ordered than military. And so once I got involved in that and kind of even the ranking system really impressed me and how to, get to the next rank. And then all the training and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, for some reason I was into it. And then I got into war history as well. And so that was for me, it was like, it was that. And then there was animals. I used to classify all animals. I used to be able to name.
What do you mean you classified them?
Well, I had...
Like by size or alphabetical order?
By where they were from, what continents they
Oh, my God.
what continents they were from, the speed of land animals, their lifespan, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
wow.
I was just into that kind of stuff. So it was, it's weird.
Wow, you're a weird dude.
Yeah, and then once I got into the military, and I was good at certain things in there, sort of like marching, very good at the discipline, doing what I was told, but and also, so this is the actual military now, not just the cadets. The physical aspects of it I was very good at as well. I was fit and I could carry the 25 kg pack and I could dig the holes. But here's what happened to me. Maturity hit. So I was very late to mature. So I didn't even have any sexual urges till I was about 19 or 18, right?
What do you mean no sexual urges?
Well, like, fancying someone.
Right,
and
really?
wanting to- yeah, like I wasn't really interested. I was still playing with my toys and skateboarding and things right up until my late teens. And so then when I started thinking...
Were you worried about that? I was like you, a late developer as well,
Yeah.
and I remember one of the saddest moments ever was maybe my 13th birthday. Me and my best friend Aaron, we went to McDonald's for my birthday dinner, and I wanted to play in the play park, and he was just like too old or too cool for it.
Oh, really?
And it was a heartbreaking moment. It was like we were going in different directions, and then he reached puberty and I didn't.
Oh, that's cute.
All your friends peeling off, taking an interest in girls, getting girlfriends or whatever, were you not like, fuck, what's wrong with me?
No, because my 3 friends, none of them peeled off to go and get with a girl. So it's in this book. It's called The Dicks Club. You know, you're supposed to have read this.
Yeah.
The Dangerous Intelligence Commandos. We didn't have girlfriends, okay?
Right. I said, going back to something you said before, another parallel. I reckon I'm ADHD as well, or definitely on the spectrum somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
But being a similar age, nothing was ever diagnosed. Do you think having a label on anything would change anything or help anything? No.
I don't think that. I think that's why I haven't bothered with it. I'm pretty sure, definitely spectrum-y, but so are some of my friends, and our children, yes, we would get them diagnosed, or we would, so you can know how to operate with them, but even then, you know, I don't think it's something you necessarily have to do unless the kid is clearly quite far on the spectrum, and then you do need to deal with it. But like, I think I can float. I'm a floater, you know, and I'm not someone that you go, oh, I think he needs to have a bit of special help, this guy. Although some would argue.
But are you quite good with staying focused on a task and being organised, or do you like rely quite heavily on your wife for that now? She's your manager.
She does everything for me, yeah. And so for me, anything to do with filling out forms or swatting, studying.
Yeah.
I think New Zealand we say swatting. I don't know whether we still do. We also swat flies. But anyway, studying. What are you swatting? Flies. Okay, you got a paper coming out. Yeah. I'm hard at it. So anything like that, I find, it's struggle, and also just reading, like reading a book. It'll take me a month. Where it'll take my wife, 3 or 4 days.
Because your mind wanders when you're reading, or
no? Maybe I'm just slower at it. Or as I'm reading it, I take in every word, and she just like skim reads.
Right.
I don't know what you're like, but like she'll just. I don't understand how she says, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to read this page." Da 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 da. Yep, okay. And I'm like, wait, what about the detail? And so I'm a very detail orientated, and so I'll read each word, and then like imagine it as it's happening and go, oh, wow. And then he went over there and said, hello. It takes me a month to get through that.
I'm the same. And when I was writing my books, dealing with book publishers, they'll be like, oh, yeah, you should read this book. I read it yesterday afternoon. It's amazing. And I'm like, you read a book in an afternoon?
Yeah.
That's
too much. I can't see how people can do that.
Yeah. So back to the military thing. So with your mind, the way it works, so you were like a Morse code guy, right? You were a Morse code expert. When you're thinking, this is a waste of time, like what am I going to need this information for? When am I ever going to use Morse code?
No, because I was in the military. I was a communications electronics operator. I was proud of my job. I was in the Signals Corps, Royal New Zealand Signals, and this was my job. And so I was just tapping away on this Morse code thing, and I was imagining that pretty soon we're going to go to some conflict. I'm going to be in a tent, and the messages are going to be coming in, and I'm writing them down, and then the officer will come in. What's the message, Sig Darby? Oh, there you go, sir. Oh, they're on their way. The packages are on their way. So a lot of my life is filled with the imagination of what I'm doing, and then if I was to snap out of it and go, hang on, nobody uses Morse code anymore.
If you know it, and it's a universal language, then the enemy will know it as well. So they'll...
Yeah, exactly, right? No,
So
because it's so old,
words.
the enemy doesn't use it anymore. That's why it's really useful. New Zealand, they clocked onto that. They're like, hang on, no one else is using this anymore.
So how does it go from the military to comedy? Is there an overlap where you're still earning money with
Always
your day
funny
job?
in school, funny in the army as well, and got told off more in the army, obviously, for being funny.
Why? Because it's stricter.
Yeah, and it's like there's no need for that. Like, you know.
But there's a big difference, though, because there's a lot of class clowns in life, and there's a lot of funny people in life. But there's a big difference between someone that can do that and someone that can engage an entire auditorium.
Yeah, I think this class clown is a dangerous territory for military, because that's, as you can imagine, with live ammunition and whatnot. But someone who's like, you know, we're heading into a battle scenario and someone's got their vest on backwards and you know, starts walking backwards going, help me, my vest is weird. It's like, Darby, can you please? And when we used to march, sometimes I'd hold hands with the person in the middle because they couldn't see us. Things like that. So just because, I don't know, I can't help it. So there was a point where I started to realise, and they brought me into the office and said, you know, I don't know if you need to stay in this career. I think this is this officer who helped me see the light, and he said I should go to university and, you know, be creative and things like that. And so I thought, he gave me a couple of pamphlets for Canterbury University, and I said, oh, well, I get time off for this, sir. And he said, oh, no, you'll get a lot of time off for this. Leave your beret here and off you go. So that was it. I was kind of gone after that. And I wasn't the only one who left. There was a few others that left with me, my friends, that also had just got to a point where they felt like they wanted to move on. And for me, it was something I felt like I needed. I needed the discipline. It gave me self-discipline. It gave me not so much the family I never had, but certainly the camaraderie of really good friends.
Yeah, that community.
A community is something that I think I craved and got from that. Of like-minded people in some regard who were into listing, you know, where animals are from.
There's been some fun debates.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Is you mean Asian elephant or African elephant? Well, how big are the ears? You know.
Right. So you're at university, and is this where you meet Grant?
Yes. Well, no, I meet him outside of university.
Right.
But I'm at university. I go there. I'm pretty much on my own there because my friend who I left the army with, Luke, he didn't go to university. He went straight into a job working in a bar. Great step up. But nothing against hospitality, of course, always required, especially these days. Love you guys. But
damage is done.
Every time I go into a bar, not you, Darby, all right? How many people have listened to that running podcast? He's not that popular. Yes, he is. Around these bars. So, yeah, I kind of like, I felt that I met some new friends at university, but the biggest part there was getting involved in the club and society situation, which I didn't even know was going to be a thing. But there was a day, which I think is still a thing, where they have clubs and societies, and one club basically that was introduced to me was the comedy club. And so Guy Roberts was sitting behind the desk. He saw me walking across the courtyard and yelled out, "Hey, you!" And then he pointed to the comedy sign. I don't know, maybe it was my walk or just my general demeanour. But I came over and I signed up straight away because I thought, well, there's one thing I know I'm good at. And so I joined this comedy club. Then I had my new community, and we met once a week. We wrote sketches. We put on a show. And then when I worked outside of university, like at my part-time job, that's where I met Grant, because that was at the Excalibur's Theatre Restaurant. So I was a theatre restaurant waiter.
So you were in hospitality, now you're shitting on them.
Yeah.
So can you remember your first time on stage on your own?
Yeah, for sure. I think, first time doing stand-up, the one that comes to mind is actually when, talking about Mike King earlier, when he came down, I think, with Andy Clay, and it was a stand-up tour, those two, and they would go to, this was way before the Classic was even a thing. They went on this little tour of New Zealand, and every little city they went to, they put on a night whereby local people could get up on stage and do an open mic slot. Right. And that was advertised. And I remember seeing that in the paper. Comics required, or whatever, like, you know, try hards, give it a whirl. I don't know what it said. But I put my name down for it. And I, because, you know, it was just it was a thing that I was. So I that was my first 5 minutes, and I remember doing it. It went okay. I had a bit about fishing, and I remember I definitely did some Frank Spencer impressions. Which
So you're right. So this was like 25 years ago.
oh yeah, for sure. Oh wait,
Right.
yeah, even further back than that.
Okay,
So this
okay.
is before I really started. So,
Right.
But because I was definitely late coming to comedy because I did all those other cool things. These days, kids are getting into it when they're 14.
Yeah.
Which is great. But
Yeah, I suppose because there's that do you know about the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour theory?
yes.
Yeah, so it's like 10,000 hours to reach sort of expert level. And the example he gives us, the Beatles, like they went to Hamburg and were doing like 3 shows a night. And then when they got back to Liverpool, they'd had so much experience. So I suppose because you were starting so late, you were so much older when you reached that 10,000 hours.
I would disagree because I let's say that I was putting in my 10,000 hours from the age of 6 or 7 and at school as a class clown and in the army. I was still doing it. I was still making people laugh.
A minute here, a minute there. Yeah.
As often as I could. And then also once I got into the scene, proper in here in New Zealand with Grant, and then again after that solo up here in Auckland, I was doing 3 gigs a week, which was more than anyone. Terry Frisbee and I and Brendan Lovegrove were sort of the main ones, and there was a few others that were gigging that often, but I really was just, thanks to Brendan for the most part, just doing any gig he threw my way with him. And then I pretty much got scooped up after that and sent to England. Not by the government, like, all right, here's our greatest comic.
It's not the army all over again. Rhys, we think you should go to university. The government, Rhys, you should go to the UK.
You'll have a lot of time over in the UK. Yeah. Okay, you're being kicked out of the country now. Leave your beret, off you go. What? Come on! So I went over there, and then I was just really dove into the scene. I was Edinburgh Fringe Festival first, and then when I eventually got to London and got a comedy agent, I was at the height of my my early stand-up internationally, was doing 5 gigs a week and sometimes 3 a night, and I was taking away like £1,000 in an envelope, cash, hard, cold pounds cash. So that was amazing, and treading the boards that often was not only confusing because you did your same 20 minutes 3 times a night, but also you really got your skills up. And so I credit that time, which was about 6 years worth of doing that, headlining clubs eventually, not straight away, but getting there, to being, and then returning and doing the shows that you would have seen here, was because of the skills I had from those audiences.
When did you realise that you were quite good?
I mean, I'd love to say day one, that fishing bit.
Was day one disastrous or like 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10?
It was, for me, I was definitely like my own personal go at it. It was definitely a 6 out of 10.
Right. Were you terrified?
A strong 6. No, because I've been making people laugh all the time.
Right.
And it was natural to me.
But I think there's a difference between like making people laugh in an environment when they're not expecting it to a New Zealand audience where they're sitting there going, all right then, make us laugh.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that, but because thanks to university and just like-minded people in that world back in Christchurch, when, I should talk about meeting Rosie, and then she set up this club called the Green Room with her 2 friends, the 3 of them from university. They co-owned this great performance place, and they also advertised for performers. And this is when me and Grant had only just started as a duo. Recently Granted was our
Stage,
name. Yeah, and so we ended up performing there, and so the audience was also basically like-minded people from university and all other performers.
Okay.
And that's the greatest thing about those kind of those cafes, those beatnik style artist areas, because everyone else is the same.
Oh yes, that's a friendly audience.
It's a friendly audience, and so our weirdness was kind of celebrated. Right. And then the next thing we did was hit the comedy festivals, and our first show was a half-hour show, and we went to Wellington. We went across on the ferry, and it was a big trip, and I found that Wellington was a sort of a theatre-based city as well. And the people that came to shows in the festival were people that were going to want comedy and to expect a laugh. They'd paid some money. And so they were lovely as well. And our weirdness was good there. So when it got to the point of Auckland was a slightly different matter. You've got different people up here, less theatrical and more kind of, all right, hurry up, mate, what do you got, And so there was definitely a difference there. But, yeah, I think there's something about the fact that our comedy and then further into my solo stuff was weird. And so it was escapism. It wasn't poking fun at any religion or political ideas. It was purely sort of fantastical stuff. So really, you couldn't really heckle that stuff. You kind of, if I was doing a helicopter impression and then doing a story about having sex with a mermaid, people aren't going to go, oh, that wouldn't happen. It's like, it's, you know what I mean?
So recently granted, what was that? Did you do songs? Or
yeah.
What was it? Yeah.
So he had a bass guitar.
Okay.
And so I went round to his place and he knew about 2 chords and they sounded cool to me. He had an amp and he was saying doom, 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 doom. And I just chucked down some lyrics about jandals and then we wrote this song about jandals and that became our kind of anthem.
He wore jandals, 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 jandals. He used to like the fact that let the air in. He'd come round to my place and you can guess what he was wearing, his jandals.
And then from there we wrote other songs, A Love Affair with Mrs. Whippy, my obsession with being a mall guy hanging out in shopping malls, and various other silly songs like that. And then we intersected or interspersed those with little sketches that were quite surreal, like the two of us doing impressions of frigate birds during mating season. Or there was one where he smoking Olympics, where he would smoke a cigarette on stage, and I'll do the commentary as he's doing these weird moves. Calculator boxing. Remember that game?
Yes, yeah.
We would do that live on stage, including all the sound effects. Would be the 2 boxers doing the exact moves of that. So there were some nostalgic things there. It was just odd.
So was it kind of Flight of the Conchords-ish?
I don't think so.
No.
I think it was, for a start, it was before them. And then the songs weren't good enough to be anything like theirs. And then we were more surreal, for sure, yeah.
You were a big star here in New Zealand. I remember seeing you on the Comedy Gala every year and you do your sound effects and stuff. Was the big breakthrough for you sort of being Brian Nesbitt in the BBC radio version of Flight of the Conchords?
Hello, Brian Nesbitt. Oh, Rosie, hello, how are you?
It's Brian's wife, Rosie, calling from New Zealand.
Oh, not so good here too. Just cleaning up after the guys. Yeah, well, Brett yelled out, throw us your potatoes. Well, exactly, so there's a mess everywhere and they've taken off, so here I am cleaning up after them. Have you? What's happened?
There's trouble brewing back home in Taranaki.
Oh, you're joking me.
Was that when things sort of...
No, that's a good question. I think probably, because other than that, up until that point, the comedy duo, then my solo efforts, and then heading over to Edinburgh, doing my solo show there, and that's pretty much when that happened as well. I think 2003, I'm guessing, I think it was. The Conchords were there as well, and Jermaine asked me to do the voice of the manager. He told me what the idea was, and so I just helped them sort of create that idea of a man who had no idea what he was doing, and I did a roll call, just straight off the bat, because I thought that was the first thing we should do, is just like, let's see who's here. And I think that's going back to my military career.
Right.
We used to do that there as well. That always, when we've got a gaggle of soldiers, and I think that's the correct term.
Pretty sure it's not.
Yeah, the sergeant major would go through and do the names, mainly because he wanted to figure out where Darby was, and quite often I'd be behind him doing an impression of him. But, Darby, get out from behind me. Sorry, sir, I thought that was legal now. Get out around there. Come on now. Yeah.
So a lot of that Flight of the Conchords stuff and the radio, this is the radio series we're talking about, which is before the TV series. Was a lot of that sort of ad-libbed?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The whole thing.
Yeah, it's funny because we haven't got to this yet in any great depth, but that clip that I referenced before, the Vanity Fair one with you and Taika, he calls you, I think, the greatest ad-libber that he's ever worked with.
Oh, yeah, I think something like that. I mean,
that's a massive compliment.
It is.
Rhys Darby is, in my opinion, one of the greatest improvisers I've ever known.
Awesome. That's me.
You are telling the truth.
Oh, thank God.
When it comes to my friends, I always tell the truth.
It's very lovely to say. I think it is something that I do feel proud about, because put me in any scene and I immediately feel that it's real and I know where I can go with it. So I don't have to struggle with coming up with words or gags. They just come to me. I don't know how. I can't explain it. But I could use the old army adage again of having to be adaptable in any situation. But really it doesn't work, because in the military you had to just be quiet and, only speak when you're spoken to. So maybe it was years of that, and then finally me being released and being able to just I've got so many things to say.
like a fizzed up can of Coke.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you spend much time reflecting or anything, but it's fucking crazy to think that there's yourself, Taika, Brent and Jermaine, 4 guys, 4 friends in the same sort of circuit, and you've all done just phenomenal things in your sphere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't stop to think about it much, because I'm still trying to push for the next thing. I think if you rest, then, it's lovely to think about and be nostalgic and wonder how it happened. But also I feel like as we got older, you've got to keep going and you've got to keep coming up with new ideas. And I think when you look at someone like Taika, gone from strength to strength, and I think there's been no kind of slowdown, particularly on his part. I mean, myself, similar, but yeah, I've really tried to change tack from a stand-up into an actor, and that was my mission from, I guess, halfway through the stand-up career, because although I find stand-up fun to do, it's not much of a challenge. It's really quite, well, I don't want to say it's easy for me, but
it is though, because you've done it long enough that it's.
Yeah.
Do you not get that sort of adrenaline rush that you should anymore?
I still do on stage, which is why I can't wait to do these live shows here in New Zealand, and especially with new audiences, because I just did a East Coast of the US tour, and they'd never seen me before, and they were just very excited just to see my face, because they'd seen it on TV in this pirate show that I've been making, which has a whole new audience. So that was a really cool revamp.
Our Flag Means Death on Netflix, yeah. Not just a pirate show. Everyone knows it's a big show.
It's a big show. I play it down.
You and Taika are both in it, and you play like gay lovers.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so it's kind of like, entertaining a new audience. That's a real lightning bolt up my
ass. What?
Up my torso.
Right.
Yeah.
How does it get in your torso?
Through the belly button. Sort of. My butt is fully clenched, so there's no way of entering there. But I think. I just love the challenge of acting, and particularly with this Our Flag Means Death, this show, it was perfect for me, because I got to be the buffoon. I got to be the man out of his depth. I got to do physical comedy. I used all my strengths, and then there was a couple that I hadn't really used, and that was the dramatic side of it. And reaching into this character and feeling the trauma that he'd gone through as a kid. And my son actually got to play the younger version of me, Theo, and he was fantastic in it. He spent a day working with Taika in these scenes, and it was all just vomiting, getting sticks thrown at him, and put out in a little dinghy, and having stones thrown at him, I should say. There were no sticks. He did run into a tree. I think that's where I got the sticks idea from. So he had to do a stunt. It was like, and at the end of it, he said, "That's it. I'm done with acting. If that's acting, offer only from now on." But he was lovely, and so that. But realizing as in this middle-aged character that had a break away from his normal life to escape a midlife crisis, I could really relate to him because he had this massive sense of adventure. And that's the same with me growing up, getting to a point where I just want to go, all right, I want to leave it all and go overseas. And, you only live once. We've got this whole planet Earth to play on. Let's see what I can do. And don't look back. And so I could really relate to this guy. And then it was acting with Taika in these dramatic parts where we're really close to each other. His character's gone through a lot of trauma. He doesn't feel loved. I don't feel loved. I have affection for him because he's Blackbeard and he's a hero in the pirate world. My guy has read all the books. It's pretty much the only thing he's good at is reading. And so now he's living the reality that he thought he would go for. It's kind of like me, the army thing. I used to watch a lot of war movies and I used to read a lot of texts about military tactics for whatever reason, and then just imagined myself in it. And then I ended up biting the bullet, so to speak, and actually doing it, and then feeling out of my depth once I was there. Same with Steed as a pirate. He's completely out of his depth, but it's too late. He's there now. So, yeah, I can really relate to this guy.
Yeah. So from a New Zealand perspective, it's just, it seems like it's success after success. So we're like, oh, shit, Rhys is doing a Nike commercial with Roger Federer. And then a year later, oh, shit, Rhys is in a movie with Jim Carrey. And then, so on and so forth. But I'm guessing, from your perspective, for every one of these jobs that comes through, there's probably another 9 that slip through the cracks or whatever. So is it all success?
Is it as easy and perfect as it looks?
Yeah, or is it? Have there been some bleak times and some scary times?
The only bleak times are really season 2 of Concords. When that had finished, there was nothing else on the table for me. So I went back to London and to get back into the stand-up scene, and I kind of dropped out of it. We had run out of money because the show didn't pay as much as what people think it really did, especially the first season.
Oh, when you say we run out of money, you mean
my wife and I?
Oh, your wife and you, right?
And because she had to give up her job.
Right. Okay, so I'm guessing Brent and Jermaine must have done well out of it. You were getting paid like an actor's fee or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't do as well as what people think either.
Right.
They probably did a bit better than me, but I was on a much more simple fee for that.
Because you imagine it's an HBO show, you just assume it's a big budget.
Yeah, and that's a very Kiwi mentality to think, okay, big America thing, you're going to get a lot of money, but it doesn't really happen that way. And the money does go up the more you stay in the game, and with contracts and everything, you get contracted into something, and then it depends how good your lawyer is. They can go, okay, the next year of the contract, he's going to get this much more or whatever. But back in those days, we didn't have lawyers or anything like that. It's changed now. Now we have a full team of people that look after us. That's what America does to you. They kind of grab you and they go, okay, you can be part of this, but these people are going to work for you and you're going to give them 10% each. Okay. Don't worry, you're getting $1 million, but you'll get 300,000 of that. Oh, okay. Love you, man.
Yeah, you're the best. You're the best. You're going places.
Yeah, have a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Hand it back on Tuesday.
How long did it take you to sniff out the bullshit? I'm guessing it's fairly quick. You go to meetings, you're going to be a star, baby.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Back in the day, we did the rounds of finding a manager, because I have a manager over there. I've had one for forever since I was over there. But in the early days, you got to find a manager. Now, with the agent, I was lucky enough to sign up to the same agency that the Concords already had. And so because I went into doing that show without that, so I think I might have had an acting agent here, but it wasn't the one I currently have in New Zealand. It was like a little ad agency thing that wouldn't have been helpful at all. And in England, I only had a comedy agent, just so basically helping me get my stand-up gigs. So I went into arguably one of the deepest pools of brilliance, which is working on television for HBO in America. Just a guy who'd done nothing. I mean, it was my first acting job. So I just go over there like a bright-eyed little cherry, excited to even see the tall buildings, and I get to act as well with my buddies, okay. And so you see that when you see the show, and you could think about that, especially when you see the pilot, which I think we did in 2006, and I've got this big, ginger hair, and I'm sitting at this little, the whole set was very cheaply made at that point. And then I think once we got the series, we redid it to make it look as though it was the same, but actually it was a proper building at that point. But yeah, I've lost track of what I was going to say. Have you heard about the different animals in Madagascar? No.
Yeah, so from that, I suppose it led to everything else,
Yeah, anyway, bring me back to I had hard times for a while there, definitely financially, after believe it or not, after the Concords. Because I didn't know, I was not enough of a name in America to certainly get no stand-up work. And even if I did, they don't pay anything over in America unless you're a big name. You got to do the college circuit, or you have to. It takes time to become a comic celebrity over there, and that was not going to happen for me. So I went back to where I knew I could earn money, and that was back in England. And yeah, it was hard. I got the call. I'm going to say I'm getting this a little bit mixed up. It was after season 1 that I went back, and we literally had no cash, and we had my little toddler at that point. We ended up living in Tooting, and I started getting back on the comedy scene there, and that's when the show thankfully blew up. So MySpace was happening there. We put the pilot out on MySpace. It got many, many views, and then after doing season 1, Peyton Reed was a big fan of the show. He's a director, and he emailed me directly, as directors do.
It's the only way they do it.
And he asked me if I wanted to have a role in this new movie, which Jim Carrey was in. So
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
like, get out of town. Is this a joke? So I landed that role.
Is that another thing where it's shit pay, but it's going to be a fantastic opportunity?
No, I mean, in terms of what I was doing, and certainly the pay was okay, but yeah, it's a first movie role, so it wasn't, huge, but it was enough to, and really it's not the pay on these things, it's how they look after you.
Right.
So they fly us back there first class, they get us a limo from our little tiny town that we were in, and to the airport, and then first class travel, and then they put us up in a place for 2 months while the shooting was on, just down the road from where we're filming, and really it's kind of like I'm in then, but I'm still always thinking, okay, so what happens when this finishes? I'm stuck in the US again. Do I go back and do stand up? So thankfully, it's just the universe really comes down to my performances in these things. So the Concord's performance for me was obviously big, and they called it the Summer of Murray in the New York Times. It was on the newspaper, and they had a picture of me on there, and I was this new thing they'd found that they thought was really, really different, and people used to think, where does this voice? Where does he come from? Is that really how he sounds? And it turns out, yeah, it is. And that's why I've been still making money on this voice ever since then, because I'm not going to change it.
Yeah.
This is my
moneymaker.
This is my nugget. Yeah, absolutely. And so things were hitting off there. The director of Yes Man wanted me, and then who else picked up on the bandwagon? And that was Sir Richard Curtis. And so he saw my work on Concords and wanted me for his The Boat That Rocked movie, which
about pirate radio and
exactly, which was
movie.
my next big thing. And so I landed that, went back to England. It's been like a real rock and roll ride, and through all this, I could just like put the stand up aside, and then from that, I think I may get the order on this wrong, but that's when I started getting offers from like Nike and then HP. And then,
What's the HP thing?
So that's
Hewlett Packard.
Yeah, Hewlett Packard. It was for computers,
Right.
Touchscreen home computers.
Okay,
and
another commercial.
That was a big.
Right.
That was a big payer. That stuff's probably on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I got that, and then I came back to New Zealand and got 2 degrees as well. And so everyone
Of a giant logo.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. It's memorable.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like, oh wow, this is all coming together. I might be able to buy a house.
Yeah. So there was never a point where you and your wife Rosie, who's your manager, you've got a young kid or 2 young kids that you thought, fuck, we need to go back home and forget about this dream.
No, never.
Right.
No.
So I suppose there was a way you always had like a backstop. Like you can always go, well, I've always got stand up, or I can always go to New Zealand and I've got a fan base there.
Yeah, I liken it to riding dragons in the ionosphere. So you're basically right up there, and you're on a dragon, and you're actually running alongside on the top of it,
Right.
And you get closer to the head of the dragon, and you're right up there, and you're holding onto the reins of this massive dragon, and you realise, oh my gosh, this dragon's going to fall out underneath me. So you're looking up, and you're finding another dragon that's out there in the sky, and you leap over to it. And sometimes it's a side leap, or sometimes it's a smaller dragon, but you're still up there, and you're just riding dragons until you fall off. Wow, I just came up with that.
I get what you're saying. It's a terrible analogy, though.
Oh, come on! People are going to be quoting that for years.
So through this, how's your mental health been through the years? So always been rock solid.
Yeah, pretty chipper.
Nothing gets you down. You don't.
Well, looking at my undiagnosed issues with my spectrum, of course, I'm very sensitive. So anything will get me down where people don't jump on board what I'm thinking or don't like me. I don't like that. That hurts, as it does every human, but it can hurt highly sensitive people way more. So, there's moments that, when I hear or see things that can get me down, but over time, you
What do you mean, like in terms of like
comments and
reviews
things like that?
Well,
yeah, reviews, comments, people saying things that you overhear, some people, or someone tells you,
Right.
oh, bloody, this guy hates you, or these people don't,
So all I've ever heard about you, and you sort of even referenced this yourself just before, the only criticism you'd hear from haters, if you want to call them that in New Zealand, is that you're a one-trick pony.
Right, yeah.
He just does the voice.
Yeah. I've already described how many tricks I have on this podcast. I think it's more than one. I can ride dragons.
But when you hear something like that, does that hurt? Or are you like, well, fuck you, I've done very well with...
No, one-trick pony doesn't hurt at
No.
all, because I'm not a one-trick pony, and if I am, that pony's pretty amazing.
it's a very well-fed pony.
Yeah. No, it's kind of negative stuff like people like, I don't deserve it or whatever, or like, why should it happen to him? And look, I don't have the answers for that. I came from nothing. I was brought up by mum who was on the benefit, and we lived in a 2-bedroom flat. She had a room, I had a room. She didn't have a job, and I didn't have anything. And so I just had dreams. And so why can't a kid who didn't come from anything make it through his manifestation of what he believed he wanted out of life? I think that's where people get upset, because they can't manifest it, or that's not happening for them. And it's because, for whatever reason, it's all societal and circumstantial where you are and what your next move is. And I just put the blinkers on early and looked at what I'm capable of doing. Tried different things. I wanted to be a ranger for a long time, a wildlife ranger, mainly because I can classify all the different animals from their different areas. But look, you find...
Maybe zookeepers are there.
You find who you are, and you get the closest people who are going to help you, and they're your true friends, and they've got your back as you've got them, and they help you realize your dream. And you don't have just one dream. My initial dream, was a ranger, and then being a soldier, being an officer in the military or the Air Force. Air Force was the first one. I watched Top Gun, and I thought that's going to be me. And then I realized, no, I got an F in physics, and there's no way I'm going to be a fighter pilot. Okay, next. What about a soldier? Next best thing? Yeah, pretty cool. No good at that, really, apart from the marching. And Morse code's not fashionable. A journalist was the next one, because, my favorite book series, Tintin, he saw the world, he had a cute dog, much like you. That was, I went to university. Turns out it was a postgraduate degree. So I had to get a degree and then do journalism. And by then I got bored of it and realized that comedy was the strongest thing in my essence, was in my heart, was entertaining and doing funny voices and making people laugh. And so at that point, New Zealand had caught up with me. There was an industry, there was a comedy club, people were doing it, and there was really the groundbreaker was the international festivals.
Yeah.
People were coming here, fantastic comics from Europe, and saying, "Hey, Rhys, come and join us back over there." And that was the rest was history.
So who would shit on you? Is it only New Zealanders that you're talking about? It does seem like that New Zealand tall poppy
only
thing.
New Zealanders, yeah. That's the only people that have ever tried to pull me down.
Well, that's terrible, because I think someone like you should be applauded.
But I am as well.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
All the four names that I mentioned before, Brendan, Jermaine, Tyker and yourself, it's inspirational.
Yeah.
And surely it says to people, shit, I can do this. If this guy can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Rather than he doesn't deserve it.
And look at all the good musicians we have in this country and how far they go. And comics to a certain degree, we're catching up there as well. You know, we have some names that are really making it Rose Matafeo overseas.
Yeah.
So it can be done. But you do have to do the time. And there's a thing here now, especially with comedy, whereby a lot of the younger ones are jumping on TV and getting jobs here and are settling for that. And there's no way up from there. You know, you've got to go out and become a much better comic than you would be just in this country, see the world, and then take those skills. And, you know, this is just me teaching everyone what I did, but, you know, it's not the only way. But here you can kind of get a job earlier on. It was not available when I was coming up through the ranks. I love ranking in this country. But now it is. But then they can settle for like a radio job or a TV job whereby, you know, it's a pretty average salary. And then they go, oh, now what? Oh, we could do that one holiday a year. But look, honestly, the amount of money that gets thrown at you in America is ridiculous. And the UK, the amount of gates that are opened, at least they were, now that Brexit's, maybe those gates are shutting slightly, but to other things. And also just the best of the industry over there, you know, being involved with the best talent that you could ever imagine on the planet. And here it's just, you know, you're limited. And also it takes, look, how much does it cost to get a house in this country? It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, it's absurd,
it's ridiculous.
Right? It's
so
absurd.
you're striving to be mediocre so that you can almost buy a house. It's like, I'm not telling everyone to leave, but, you know, it's something needs to be done in that regard. And look, it's not my forte. I just decided right from the beginning that I was going to leave this place. Oh, there's my alarm. Looks like we're out of time, folks. That's the Stranger Things.
Oh, is it? Wow, is that a Stranger Things watch?
Yeah.
Where from?
Stranger Things. Timex. I got it in America.
Right, awesome. Do you have to wrap up? How much?
No. I just put that on.
Well, I'm loving this so much. Sorry, it has been an hour of your time. So mentally, you're in a great place, which is bloody lucky. Do you have any like tips or tools to make sure your mental health stays in a good place? Can you feel if it's getting out of kilter or off balance?
Yeah, I think that the number one thing is friends and family, and they're always your best allies. Friends in particular, your close ones have always got your back. Family can be annoying, but family will always be there for you. So even if your friends have got to go away or something's happened, you've had a falling out, your family is just going to be, it's your safety blanket. So, you know, but for families, you have to support each other and don't get like annoyed with each other or feel not bothered about each other, which is quite a Kiwi thing as well. We need to kind of raise each other up and kind of be positive. And, you know, there's a lot of negativity in this country. And I think one of the great things in America I found was just so much optimism. And they are really proud people. They love, you know, how they're on top of things and where they can go. And, you know, no isn't really a word they use much over there. And I found that refreshing for me because here in New Zealand, you know, it's like, oh, do you deserve that? Oh, you'll never get that, mate, or whatever. And then when you go to, you know, the old mother country over to Great Britain, that's where we bloody got it from because they're all upset, miserable bastards. Oh, don't come over here. You're from a colony. You're not going to, you know. But I think it is changing. Younger generations are getting better. Certainly the older ones were more miserable. But I think in terms of mental health, it's friends and family are your best allies, and have more than one thing going on. And that's what I really love is like, for example, I do the acting, I do stand up, I write the children's books, I enjoy keeping fit. It's a really big thing, as you know, for mental health.
Oh,
sure.
huge.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Yeah. Keep fit. And people still don't really realize that. But that's probably in the top 3 things you could do is just keep fit, because you're taking an hour out of your day to not think about any of those other things and concentrate on building up what your body or exercising, and listen to some awesome music. Music's really important. Your favorite bands, your happy playlist that gets you through the day. And then the other thing is, have many things to do. And so I've got my podcast, which is my labor of love, with my 2 good buddies, where we just talk about cryptozoological creatures and weird news.
Get a plug in for it. I find the best way to plug a podcast is on another podcast.
Yeah, right.
So what's the name of it?
It's called The Cryptid Factor.
Right.
And it's on all the different platforms.
That's been going for a while, right?
It's been going for, since 2008, that one.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It started off as a radio show on the actual radio, and then we got kicked off into another radio station, and then we ended up in another radio station. And then luckily along the way, we started recording them, and then podcasts became a thing. And now we're a podcast that has just kept going. And it's been a side hustle. And so, I think...
You make some money out of it?
No, there's no money.
No.
I say hustle and just because I couldn't think of another term. But it's just like a side love, I guess. So something you do.
A hobby.
Well, I could have just said it's a hobby. But I like the term side hustle.
that implies there's some money coming in.
Oh, is it a money thing? Is it?
So.
Okay. So there's not much money. We do have a Patreon where if you want to join, you can get more content and things like that. But that money we save up, and that we give that to Buttons if he wants to come over to LA. He's the producer of the podcast.
Right.
But anyway, basically, have a lot of things going on, because if you're focused on one thing and that gets you down, then you kind of, where do you go? And so you've got to have fun things, happy places that you can cross into. And that's it's so simple, like with books, or I have happy TV shows that if I'm down, I'll go and click that on, and I don't know. Those are my little tips.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Because I think with mental health, there's no sort of one size fits all. So if it's a show that makes you happy, like Love Island or whatever, then go ahead and watch it. Yeah. What's your inner voice like? You seem like very self-assured. Do you beat yourself up much, or are you quite kind to yourself?
I think my inner voice. That's a good question. I think it's always on track and telling me where I want to be. It's telling me to be cautious and telling me to just keep alert, don't put a foot wrong, especially these days with all the things that are going on. And
don't put a foot wrong in terms of like what things you do in public.
Don't get cancelled.
Right. Like,
that's not a big one for me, but it's kind of like just...
Yeah, I can't imagine you do anything. Like
No, not like that. But I think just keep relevant and be aware of society, and just in terms of like saying the wrong thing or which is, because we're from a generation that we have to learn a bit more than the younger ones do with how we use words and things like that. And we say the wrong thing all of a sudden, and then people will go, "Hey, you can't say that." With "Oh, sorry, I'm from 1974." Sorry, things like that.
That's great, because that clip that I referenced before, the Vanity Fair one, there's a scene in there where the joke is kind of that everyone in New Zealand knows everyone in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And Taika shows you a selection of photos, and there's Peter Jackson, Jacinda Ardern, and one of Melanie Linsky.
Yeah.
Do all Kiwis in Hollywood know each other?
Pretty much. Or definitely know of each other and have seen each other once or twice, if not regularly. Yeah.
Do you know this woman?
Yes, of course. What's her name again?
Melanie Linsky.
And you mentioned that you've met Melanie Linsky once, so it's perfectly fair that you wouldn't necessarily remember her, even though she does have a huge body of work. But you sort of, were you expecting that to be cut out, by the way? Because
no.
you sort of whispered to Taika, "Who is it?" And he's
Did
like,
I? Yeah.
And he's like, "It's Melanie Linsky."
I didn't recognise her.
Right. See, if that was me, I'd be beating myself up for days over that.
Oh, really?
I'd be out on a run and I'd be like, "Oh, you did that Melanie Linsky thing." But no, you're and I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But it's just how my brain works.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I know the beating up thing. That does happen. When you you miss an opportunity, or I think that's very human for us to, we're very fallible, and we do stuff up all the time. But you've got to, when you feel yourself, when you feel as though you've stuffed up, you've got to really move on. You can't dwell. And you've got to move on from the dwelling.
You're good at that.
Yeah,
compartmentalising things, putting them in the past.
Yeah, I go straight into my classification of animals, and I'm away.
Where does this all come from? This this mental strength and focus that you have. Has it just always been there?
Yeah, I think so. Right from the early age, being a kid, I just knew that I wanted to get somewhere in the world and take it on, and never give up. I mean, I'm an Aries, so maybe my star sign has something to do with it. I have a lot of fire in my heart and my soul, and I really want to, I guess, get things done, and I want to have a good time. While I'm here. We may only be here once, and I think right from the essence of it was, like I said earlier on the show, at the beginning, I felt like I'm a mistake and that I'm not supposed to be here, and I feel like I'm weird. And so I'm thinking like, right, if I'm an alien and I've just landed, I'm going to conquer this planet, and then and prove to everyone that I'm not a mistake, or that mistakes are the most magical things you can get. Yeah,
but I think everyone feels weird though, don't they? As you get older, don't you think you realise that everyone feels exactly the same way? No?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to everyone.
Yeah, and we've been here an hour and you haven't asked me if I feel... Yeah. Anyway, I feel like everyone does. Okay, so what's next for you? Are you much of like a planner, like a goal setter, or do you just sort of take opportunities as they come and assess them?
Yeah, you can't really... I've got to a point now where, the goals have been achieved to a certain degree for sure. And so now I'm just like hanging on to this current dragon and waiting for the next phone to ring. So, you're still, as an actor, you're still, only as good as your last performance, and you're waiting for the next opportunity. And, these are coming, and I did Our Flag Means Death, and it was a success. So I'm okay. I can relax. We've got a second series, so I'm doing that. I'm filming that this year, and I'm just kind of trying to enjoy the place I'm in right now, and be happy with who I am.
Yeah. I feel like you are.
Good. Do I look like that? I feel like that. It's the glow. Maybe that's the glow.
The glow up. Oh no, you look very, very content and assured and happy. And I suppose the life that you've created for yourself and your family means that your kids at the ages they're at now, 12 and 16,
yes,
means the window of years that you've got with them as kids is running out.
It's running out,
and you get to spend this time with them, which is a luxury.
Absolutely, yeah. And Rosie, to her credit, she's very involved in making sure that these years with the kids the best they can be, and we're full of memories, and that we can provide and all that kind of stuff, and give them these great opportunities, which also the States offers them as well as here. So yeah, we're in a good place, but the world isn't in a great place, and so there's still that like volatile situation of like, what's going to happen? What's China doing? What's Russia doing? We've got New Zealand. I know. But then, because it's my military stuff again. I'm always looking at things like strategies and what plans countries are thinking of, and then I go, nope, move back to your happy place. You're a pirate. Woohoo! Entertain. Yeah. No, you can't like dwell on negative stuff like that. But you never know what's around the next corner. So I think now more than ever, pandemic, everything like that, is just enjoy yourself on a day-to-day basis, and just take each day as it comes, and be thankful for the things that you do have.
Yeah. Probably a nice place to end it, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. I don't know how many times I've interviewed you on the radio, maybe 20.
A few, yeah.
But I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, it's been awesome to have a nice, big, in-depth one.
Yeah, this is what I enjoy about podcasts. You can go to places that you wouldn't necessarily go to on the radio chat.
Yeah.
If it was radio, I'd have to ask you if you've had like Rita Ora over for dinner with Tiger. We don't need to. Have you?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bo.
Thanks very much for making it all the way through that episode of Runners Only with Dom Harvey with Rhys Darby. Really hope you liked it. Usual spiel at the end of the podcast. If you like it, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, or take a moment and give it a rating, or even a review if you want, if the podcast platform that you listen to allows you to do so. If you're a regular listener, like you listen every week, I can't tell you how much I appreciate having you along for this journey. And another little favour you can do if you want, if you can think of someone that you think may like this podcast or get something out of it, please do recommend it to them or share it on your social media channels. I can't underestimate just how effective that word of mouth marketing is. All right, thanks very much. Really appreciate you being here. Hope to see you next week.